In the midst of everything going on this year, this is a new hybrid festival of live and digital work. We are so appreciative that you joined us tonight, and we hope that you'll continue to join us throughout the festival, which runs through October 4th. Because our festival is primarily digital this year, we encourage you to share the word with your friends, particularly about our festival offerings that can be seen online. Now, whether you have friends in Chicago or in Abu Dhabi, they can all join us. So we hope you'll help us spread the word. And while you're at it, consider gifting a membership to support Fringe Arts. Before we get started today, a couple of quick Zoom housekeeping things. I'm sure everybody here is an expert at Zoom since we've been using it for the last 6+ months, but just a couple reminders to you as we get started. We are going to be recording tonight's conversation, and we ask that you begin by turning off your video and audio. On the bottom of your screen on the left-hand side, you can see some icons that indicate a microphone and a video camera. Make sure that those are turned off to start. We ask that you orient yourself so you're in grid view so you can see all of the different creators and collaborators who've worked on the making of this project. And know that you're welcome to be looking at the chat throughout. If you have any questions, you can of course put those in there and the team will address them at the end. Just to give you a little bit of context about this very special project, created by Nell Bang-Jensen and an incredible group of collaborators, both adults and young people. This Peace Boy project was originally slated to be part of our High Pressure Fire Service Festival, which would have gone up at Fringe Arts in our building on Columbus Avenue this past spring. Hip Fizz is our annual festival of new performance works by local Philadelphia artists. And this year it also included pieces by James Alistair Sprang, Alex Tatarski, Kyle DeCunian and Anti-Gravity Performance Project, and Emily Bate. Of course, all of these artists were faced with the unexpected consequences of COVID-19 that hit in the midst of rehearsal processes just weeks away from the premiere of these new works. In its wake, there's been a complicated loss in grappling with how and in what ways, and even why, to continue making performance. But we at the Fringe Arts are thrilled that these artists have each agreed to present some new works in the Fringe Festival this fall, one of which you're going to be seeing this evening. Each artist has approached this opportunity in different ways. Some have created completely new pieces, some are adapting materials and processes from their original plans, and others are creating entirely new works. Tonight, you're going to be seeing the making of Boy Project. So Nell and her team will tell you a little bit about their process of working with these young people, and you can join them in some story sharing activities. This is not necessarily the final or the full or the complete work, but it's an incredible opportunity to hear from these artists about their process and the ways in which they continue to be resilient in these tough times. So without further ado, I'll pass it on to Nell and her team. Thank you again for joining us, and you're in for a real treat.
Thank you, Katie, and the rest of Fringe Arts for having us. It's really wonderful to be back here and sharing this work with an audience, even if not in the medium we had anticipated. So thank you all for giving us a little bit of closure tonight for this stage of the process and getting to reflect on our experiences with you all. For those who don't know me, my name's Nell Bang-Jensen, and I am the Artistic Director of Theater Horizon in Norristown, and I'm also a maker and director of original work. And my favorite kind of theatrical work to make is work with professional artists and people who aren't normally found in professional theatrical circles. So I worked on pieces with Philadelphia home health aides and caregivers, and now I am working with teenage boys and non-binary teenagers around Philadelphia. And I want to talk a little bit about my impetus for the project to get started. In 2018, in my social circles, we were having a lot of conversations about toxic masculinity surrounding the Brett Kavanaugh hearing. And while I had grown up, having a lot of those conversations, I felt like more and more households around America were incorporating those words into their vocabulary. And it made me think a lot about this category of men and how we are conceiving of that category in the year 2020, then 2018. And I began thinking, what is the next generation after me? How are they conceiving of gender and changing definitions? And actually, I think they're way ahead of where most of us adults are in terms of the associations they have with particular genders and stereotypes. And I did not want to make an assumption, but to hear it from the source. So the past 2 years have found me in story circles and workshops with teenagers around Philadelphia to hear about their real life experiences in terms of gender and how they themselves relate to the topic and content of masculinity. So this evening, you're going to hear a little bit from me about this process. You're going to hear from 5 other creative team members about this process and from 7 of the teenagers who've been involved at various stages. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to pass it off to my collaborator, Matthew Armstead, who's going to talk a little bit about how this evening will go.
Thanks, Nell. So again, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming to the Making of Boy project. And we wanted to give you a heads up about what'll happen tonight. So first, what's gonna happen in a second is you're gonna get to meet a bunch of the creators. So 7 of the under 18s and then 5 of us over 18 folks. And then later on in the night, you'll actually get a moment to see a short documentary that we made about the piece before we open it up for questions. However, in the middle, there's going to be a moment where we invite you to participate in what we call a story circle. And we'll share more about it when that comes. But in case you came to this show and were like, I just wanted to hear about the Making a Boy project. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to talk to anybody. I am just here. That's fine. You're still welcome in the right place. And if you want to dive into those conversations, well, you'll get an opportunity. Because one principle we're really running on is like welcoming your choice and consent about participating in different activities. And so when we get to that moment, we just want to let you know now that it's a heads up in case when you get there, you're like, I don't want to do any of this. There'll be multiple moments for you to get to choose to pass if you want to, which is the same choice that we all as a creative team have had the whole time too. And so without interrupting any much more, I want to pass over to the creators so you get to meet our whole crew of people. So now I'll pass it to you to kick the ball off to someone else.
Great, so you already heard from me a little bit, but I'm gonna ask now that each of our creative team members and teenage performers and makers go around and introduce themselves with their names and their pronouns. They're gonna talk a little bit about how each of them got involved in Boy Project, and also a favorite moment from our process of working together over the past 2 years. And then they'll pass it off to someone else on the team. So to start, I'm actually gonna pass it to Brad.
Thanks, Nell. So my name is Bradley Wren. My pronouns are he, him. I am a deviser creator. That's sort of my role on the process. And I first met Nell and ended up in the Boy Project. I met her in a workshop, I believe this is the first time we met, for Pig Iron. And then she invited me to participate in this project called The Caregivers, which was a show that Nell created with about a dozen people who give full-time care to loved ones, and we created a show with them. And after that show was over, I asked Nell for coffee, and I said, how can I be involved more with the work that you do? Because it is such vital work. It's work that feels necessary, and it feels like it has purpose. So then a favorite moment from the process, we, throughout the process, invited folks from the outside to sort of come in and disrupt our rehearsal generative time together. And one particular person we invited in was a friend of mine who is a stay-at-home dad. And we had all the young folks ask that stay-at-home dad questions. And some of them were really banal, harmless, innocent questions. And one of the questions was, what do you do for work? And I saw my friend struggle with this question because he is a stay-at-home dad who takes care of 3 children all day. And yet being asked, what do you do for work? He couldn't identify that the work he did at home with his 3 children all day for, well, let's say 24/7 was real work. He tried to justify it as, oh, I'm between jobs, I'm struggling, I'm trying to find something. And it broke my heart a little because the work he does is so necessary and so important, and yet he couldn't see that. So now I am going to popcorn to Jesse.
Hi everyone, I'm Jesse Simonet, one of the younger creative team members. I go by he, him pronouns. I joined this project because my mom is really good friends with Nell. And so Nell kind of recruited me through her. And so she just told me that like there's this project that my friend's doing about being a boy in America. And I was like, okay, cool. And then she told me that I was going to be paid, and I was like, okay, cool. But the project's been really great. All these people are so wonderful, and I'm honored to have had the chance to spend this time with them. And I'd say my favorite moment was probably we were one of the days in the rehearsal, we played this sort of game almost, where half of us closed our eyes and the other half had to lead them around the space verbally, kind of like, you know, like guide them so they don't bump into other people and walls. And it was just a very like personal and touching moment, while also it was sort of like a fun, lighthearted game. And I will pass it to Isaiah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaiah Schuckman. I'm also one of the younger members of this creative team. I use he, him pronouns, and I found my way to the Boy Project, like Jesse, through my mother. My twin brother, who's also a creative team member, Jaden, and I grew up around the theater, my sister being involved in stage theater for as long as I can remember. And I was starting to lose interest. And my mom came to me and she said, Isaiah, like a friend of mine at Fringe Arts is looking to do a show about being a young man in America, and she needs boys to come do it. Do you want to do it? And I was like, maybe. I'll try it out. So I went to a workshop very early on. And the only people who are on the creative team who were there were me, my brother, and Simon, along with Nell and I believe Brad at the time. And I went and I found myself taking part in conversations that I really wouldn't have had in any other facet of my life. And that posed with the chance to be on stage again. I was like, you know what, I'm in, I'm here for it. I'll do it. So the end of that summer, we started to devise the piece, and then we worked all through the year. And then COVID happened, and now I'm here. And throughout that process, one of my favorite moments wasn't actually a specific moment, but it was watching some people who really weren't used to being on stage and being around the stage find themselves on stage and be able to step into roles that weren't really things they were comfortable with. And that was just super interesting for me to watch. Yeah, so I'm going to pass it off to my friend William.
Hi everyone. So my name is William. I am one of the under 18 members of Boy Project, and I go by he, him pronouns. So I got involved in Boy Project because there was this project that Fringe Arts in my school were working on, and I had to go to the unveiling with some of the kids from my school, and I also had to give a speech. So basically after that day, literally like the next day, my dance teacher told me to go to her classroom, and there I went, and she had this flyer about Boy Project, and it was like inviting like teen boys from around the city. So that same day I went, and ever since that day, like I liked there, and then I've just been going ever since then. And then if I had to pick a favorite memory or part of Boy Project, it would definitely have to be when we built the tents and we had to like sit in the dark and like answer the questions. Oh no, I got cut off. I'm sorry, but if I remember correctly, where I was,
That's okay. You were talking about the tents, and I think you can choose
Yeah.
someone to pass it to now, William.
yeah. So in the tents, basically, we were sitting in the dark and we had to answer questions, which was really fun. And I'm gonna pass it off to Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon. I am one of the younger under 18 creators. I go by he, him pronouns. I got involved with the Boy Project because Nell is a family friend to a lot of my family. She's friends with my grandparents, she's friends with my parents. And so she sent an email to my mom, similar to the way Jaden and Isaiah and Jesse got involved. And so I went to the workshop a little over a year ago, and I just kind of stuck with it since then because I enjoyed the conversations we had. I enjoyed the people that were there. Yeah, the power of moms. And basically my favorite part so far was this day when Brad brought in the costume bin and everybody took costumes, made costumes, and we created characters with those costumes. And then we made scenes with those characters with those costumes. And it was the first time we really like created actual scenes in the project instead of just like having conversations and playing games and messing around. It felt like we actually like made something that we can have scripted and perform. Even if it is a little improvised, it's still slightly scripted. And I'm going to pass it to Allison.
Hi, my name is Allison Ormsby. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an over 18, and I got involved with the process because I've been directed by Nell before, and I just loved the whole way that she conducted the process. I thought it was so beautifully done, so present, so focused, and so compassionate and humanitarian and authentic. And I knew about the caregivers, and I was like, anything that is of this world, I want to know more about it and understand the mechanics and the brain behind. So asked Nell, and here I am. And a favorite moment from the process for me was actually kind of recently. We got to interview the young folks as kind of a, for now, time capsule memory moment where we went through and asked a bunch of questions and just had a conversation via Zoom in a more intimate way. And it was just a really great chance to get to know each other a little bit better in a kind of more one-on-one setting and just really sit with each other and hold space during this very chaotic time. And it was really grounding to be together. So I'm going to pass it to Johanna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Johanna. I use she, her. I came to the project through working as a creator and deviser on the caregivers, and was so excited to continue on this project because I think something that was so rich in that room is that sort of the generative and sort of creative potential of these rooms wasn't reliant on it being all professional actors, that there was really these amazing artistic moments that were and relationships that were happening in this room of people that were thrown together from all different places. And that's happened in this room. My favorite moment, there's so many. There was this moment in the winter workshop where we all watched these Axe commercials, which is this Axe body spray. Many of you have probably seen them. They're these pretty ridiculous, hyper, sort of masculine, sort of sexualized commercials. And so thinking about how young men are portrayed in the media. And we had the young folks go and create, or all of us actually went to create these scenes that were sort of new versions of the commercials, or satirizing them or poking holes into sort of this depiction that we saw in the Axe commercials. And those scenes, I think a lot like Simon said, they just felt so sort of bursting with amazing writing and performances and ridiculous costumes. And, you know, like all devising, it was just these like messy things we were throwing up, but I think had this sort of just like broke open these sort of conversations and everyone's sort of performative powers in a super fun way. I'm gonna pass it to Elias.
Hi, I'm Elias. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an under 18, if that was not perfectly clear. Uh, how did I end up working on Boy Project? I think my parents knew Brad, and then Brad knew Nell, and then so it was just a chain that ended up getting me involved. And I was in a workshop that I was the only kid there, and that was fun. I was like, is anybody else doing this thing? It's fine. Favorite moment, I would say definitely from our first showing of the Boy Project. We had a table, and like we had shaving cream, and we were like, this is how you shave, but then we didn't. It's kind of hard to explain. We just messed around with shaving cream for like half an hour, and it was awesome. Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite moments. I'm gonna bounce it to Jaden.
Hi, I'm Jaden. I am Isaiah's twin. I go by he, him pronouns. I kind of like can't say how I was brought into Boris Project because that would just be saying the exact same thing that my brother already said. So I just thank my mom and my sister for that one. And I have to say, though there were a lot of great moments while working on Boy Project and while we were doing work and we were like doing story circles. I just have to say my favorite part of the entire experience was just being with the guys and not the guys, honestly. Like we just like sitting in the dressing room eating snacks, playing cornhole after the showing, or just like sitting down and eating those I think there were those Himalayan sea salt chips that someone brought into the winter workshops that we just devoured. And it's just all these times that I just remember with you guys, and it was really fun. And I'll send it to Eva.
I'm Eva. I use she, her pronouns. I'm an over 18. Similarly to Brad and Johanna, I worked on the caregivers and stayed close to Nell and tried to follow her wherever I could and followed her here. And I'm so happy that I did. One of my favorite moments was in the July of 2019 showing. We did a little showing at Fringe Arts, and it was the first time that we had put any of the material in front of an audience. We had been playing games and telling stories and doing exercises and making scenes, and it wasn't quite clear what was and wasn't theatrical. And the first thing that we did at the beginning of the showing was we played a game that had been a warm-up game, which is essentially just a game of stealing chairs from each other. But if somebody is trying to sit down and everybody else is trying to stop them from sitting down. And it was so delightful and so fun to watch. And the ensemble had created such a wonderful energy. People had so much joy and play and relationships that was visible in this very simple game, and made me super excited to see what else all of these people would come up with. I'm going to pass to Matthew.
Thanks, Eva. So my name is Matthew. I use she and they as pronouns and welcome you to mix them up along the way as you talk with me. And I got involved in the Boy Project after hearing Nell's name for maybe 8 years, maybe more. And, oh, definitely more now that I'm thinking about it. And our paths never crossed. People just said, yo, you all should know each other. And then I arrived to study with Pig Iron, and it was the year Nell was an associate artist with Pig Iron. And suddenly we were colliding in hallways. And one of the projects I worked on while I was at Pig Iron was a project about masculinity, using theater tools to explore masculinity with cisgender, transgender, and non-binary people. And Nell was helping shape that class and then was there at the final showing that we had at Lutheran Settlement House. with a bunch of community members who had joined for activities. And we got into some amazing conversations using theater. And so afterwards, Nell and I talked, and she was like, hey, I have this thing called Boy Project. It seems similar, and like, maybe we should work on this together. Except she sounded way more confident than that and very clear about what she was saying. And so we started working on Boy Project, and I missed the summer workshop last year, but I was able to join again in the winter. And so I came in the winter along with some under 18 folks too. And my favorite memory is that same moment that Simon was talking about, when the costume box got pulled out, and I got paired with William. And we had to figure out, what is our relationship, what is our costume, and what are we gonna do? And so we were the last to get to the costume bin. We got to the costume bin, we got costumes, and then very quickly, William had a clear vision about what our relationships were, what our characters were. And as soon as William finished explaining it, Allison came in and was like, all right, everybody, time to get on stage. And so we just showed up on stage, which for me, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I haven't been on stage in a couple months. I'm like really, really nervous about it. And then there was this moment when the conversation kept going, and William and I were on the end of the whole circle of people. And suddenly a character emerged because I kept seeing William like try to get in to talk, and I was like, this person has good ideas. And so my character said, my brother has a question. And then William had a question, and it became a character for the rest of that time. And we got to have a lot of fun with it. And so that's my favorite moment. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Damon.
Hi, my name is Damon. I use he, him pronouns. I got into Boys Project because when I was in my freshman year in high school, my arts teacher told me about Nell and the project, and I said, that sounds pretty cool, so I joined. And I have to say my favorite moment is definitely just the whole thing, because I liked how we were so vulnerable to each other, like total strangers, and we just talked to each other and we were so connected. I feel like that was the best part.
Thanks, everyone. That's really wonderful for us, at least, to get to relive some of these moments. So you got to know us a little bit, and I'll say there's more people involved in Boy Project, our designers, so a few more young folks who couldn't be here tonight. So believe it or not, this mighty team is just a sample. And next, we want to get to know you all a little bit better. We're going to do so in breakout rooms, and I'm going to let Matthew explain a little bit about that.
Sure. Thanks, Nell. So what we're going to do is we're going to get to go to breakout rooms and do a story circle. And a story circle is a practice that actually comes out of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in the mid-20th century civil rights movement. And theater folks have picked it up. And so we want to share this tool also with you. If you've done it before, hey, you're an expert, welcome. If you haven't done it before, we just want to go over the rules of a story circle so you can also have them. The first rule is only one person will speak at a time in a story circle. We'll really go around, and we'll go in an order. And so when you go to your story circle, which is in a Zoom breakout room, there'll actually be an under 18 and over 18 facilitator there to support you. And so they'll be keeping an eye on an order and helping know when you get to go or not go. The other thing is we invite people, when you do share, to not actually respond to someone else. Like, I have just heard a bunch of brilliant things people have said, and I have sometimes the impulse to be like, oh yes, and let me add on to this other layer of it. In a story circle, we actually try to work a slightly different muscle. We're like, let's hear that and then speak from our experience, not just echo what we heard from somebody else. So we invite you to come in and speak from your experience. And then the last rule of a story circle is you can pass. Just like every other young person and over 18 person who's actually here, we all got an invitation and got to choose, do we want to participate or not? And then we went to a story circle and then got another choice, do we want to participate or not? So your first moment to actually get to choose is going to come up in a second when you get to say, do I want to join a breakout room or do I just click this button that says later? And so ZJ Katie, we have a ZJ, Zoom DJ here helping us out. And so ZJ, can you open up the breakout rooms? And folks, you get to choose breakout room or not today. That's your choice. I'll hang out with you for a little bit while we start to go into those. You'll start to see our faces disappear. And I imagine I'm already watching your numbers disappear too. And for those of you who are still here, if you run into a tech issue or trying to get into a breakout room, you have Nell and Katie here who can help you out. So I'll see you later.
And I think that's everybody.
Wow, so everyone chose to go. Amazing. Sometimes we just have to give them the option. Oh, you're on mute, Katie.
Somebody actually just popped into the waiting room. Should I bring them into this room and do you mind telling them?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, Nell.
Hello.
Hello. Our friend Christy here says that the host has disabled video.
Oh no. Let's see here. Checking it out. Everybody should do video. I can do me.
If it's not possible, we can just use voices. But if it is possible, I would take it.
You should have about five people here, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
More. How about now, Christy?
Hi.
Hello. Great.
Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome. Have a great time.
Thanks.
A little documentary in a little bit, and you'll see more of them. It's been an incredible group. Sometimes they're a little more rambunctious than they are tonight. They're very good in front of an audience. Katie knows.
But they're polite, they're dialogue pretty well.
Yes. Yeah, I know. They really like to talk. I was realizing that with the intros. I was like, these are long because they all like their moment in the spotlight. But,
but it's really great to know how they came to this.
Yeah, I think so too.
That's always one of my curiosities is how people get to do what they do in the art. And
Yeah, I found with a lot of this community-based work, it's a pretty arbitrary process, to be honest. Like a lot of it is me putting out feelers everywhere I can.
Yeah, there's a lot of
profits, writing schools, and then it's 85% of them don't get back to you, and 15% do, and then they're the ones who are in the show.
Well, but you got out of contact with these guys. They all know you.
Yes, yeah. Well, we've been working together for a while now, which has been great. But yeah, there were, we did some story circles that, no one really took to it, or just, they didn't get back to us, or, we try to make it as accessible as possible. And
but everybody loved this one. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
I felt like since I was squeezed in anyway, but we are wondering how virtual shows get sold out.
Yeah.
Like, is it the Zoom capacity?
We were allowed to put a cap on it. And because the teenagers are co-facilitating the breakout rooms, we felt like we wanted reasonable numbers. So I think we set up to 12 people in each breakout room. So it made for a cap of, I think, 65.
This is a great number.
Yeah. 65 is pretty good. I mean, we could have gone bigger. It would just mean managing more people, and something felt nice about keeping it smaller. So.
Well, thank you for letting me in.
Of course. I'm glad it worked out.
The box office was very sweet.
Good.
But their notes, I wrote them back and thanked them for squeezing in one more.
Yes.
But boy, it is lovely to see you.
You too, and we'll do it again on Friday
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
2 in 1 week.
Yes, 2 in 1 week. That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And you have nephews. I was just thinking you've had teenage boys in your life, but they're a little older now, right?
They are. The youngest is 18.
Okay.
But yes, my nephews are probably, it would be very interesting to talk about them because they are of the traditional masculinity. They are being raised by a family who is very strong in the conservative values.
Yeah.
So this one.
Yes. So you try to rub off your influence on them.
Boy, do I try. All I get is mocked. So it is a very interesting position to be in, being the same blood as my brother right now. My brother is one of the ones who sadly believes this is just a little bug.
Oh.
Sorry. Don't judge me.
No, I don't. Justin's family is the same way. So.
Really?
We've been working on them slowly before the election. We've been trying to call his family.
I saw your post the other night.
Yeah, about him on the phone with his mom.
Right. Oh, no.
Yeah. It's what we have to try, I guess, is those individual conversations. But man, they're painful.
They are very painful. And very depleting.
Yeah.
And just mind-boggling.
Yeah.
You know, my brother has an MBA from Harvard. And this is what you get.
Yeah. I know, we're hopeful with Justin's niece and nephew. They're college aged, and we're like, we need to get them out here for a visit or something.
Because like you said in your podcast, you know, we're all raised to believe what we believe.
Yeah.
But I never was given a foundation. Like, you know, my political views literally just happened within the last 4 years.
Wow.
You know, I have always, I've voted because I know it's the right thing to do when you live in America. But my fundamental foundation for this kind of thing was never fostered. So I'm doing all this on my own, stumbling through the muck.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We all have to find those paths for ourselves. It's tricky, and there's just so much out there. I mean, the media makes it much harder.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you for chatting.
Of course, I know. I think everyone's coming back. I just got a message from Katie.
Yeah.
And we'll be coming back in about 3 minutes. So then we'll hear a little bit about what was discussed in your rooms, and then watch a documentary. So
that would be great.
Yeah.
This really does work.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. You never know with a Zoom performance.
Well,
so I'm glad
I mean, we're going away and
yeah.
It somehow you do get used to it.
I know, it's true.
Like,
it's true.
But like breakout room, what a novel idea.
I know. We have all new vocabulary than we had a year ago, right?
Well,
breakout rooms.
But like they're all coming back now.
Oh, good.
It's so cool. But I'll talk to you Friday.
All right. Talk to you later, Becky.
Thanks now.
Take care.
You too.
Leave your face at the door. Turn off your swag and check your bag. From your limbs to your Timbs, get down. But whatever you do, hey, don't fuck with my groove. Whatever you do, 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 don't fuck with my groove. Whatever you
Thanks, everyone. That seemed like mostly a technological win, so I'm going to take it. Nice work finding your breakout room and coming back together. We're briefly just going to do a little share out to hear what was talked about in each group. We're going to have a reporter from each group just talk about what question was discussed, and then maybe one interesting thing that came out of the conversation. I'm sure there were more. And then we're going to watch a brief documentary about the project that's about 3 minutes long, and then we'll answer questions you might have about the piece. So I'm going to start by asking Damon and Brad about your breakout room.
So I'm gonna do the summary for our breakout room. And what we talked about was kind of what does everybody think that people my age that identify as male think about on a daily basis and how we sort of operate. And what came back was kind of just that was actually very different from what I thought. It was more goal oriented and, you know, just our future and what we're going to do, what we're going to be. And I think they're very right in that aspect because we do think about that a lot generally. And we also then talked about how there's toxic masculinity. So what would be something that would become positive? And something very cool that came out of it was someone said that we kind of have always lived in this box of two gender roles. And nowadays it's getting broken more and more. And I agree with that. So.
Awesome, that's great. Damon, I would want to hear how you would answer that question about what male identified people your age think about, but maybe we'll get to that later in the talk back. I will not put you on the spot. Let's go to Eva and Jesse to hear about your breakout room.
Thank you, Nell. So we actually had two questions. We talked about first, what are like positive aspects of masculinity that you like and you support? And also, we talked about like if you had ever experienced either like participated in or just observed someone being prejudiced against because they identify as male, like sort of sexism against someone who identifies as male. And in regards to the first question, we brought up a lot of stuff that signified like the idea that like men are supposed to sort of like care for other people, like in their family and as their friends. And sometimes this can be twisted into something bad, like sort of chivalry, and that kind of aspect. But in its like pure form, the idea of like a man being like a caregiver for a family, or you know, like kind of trying to protect and trying to shelter and care for his family is like a really good, healthy thing. And for the other question, we talked about how a lot of the times, like, it's hard, like men are discouraged from sharing their feelings and how they really feel because they kind of have to be like stoic and like a tough guy. So I don't want to make this take too long.
That was great. Thanks, Jesse. Can we hear from Elias, Jaden, and Matthew's group?
Yeah, I'll take that. Our question was, what have you seen toxic masculinity in your life? And if so, give an example. We talked about how it was like it spread across many generations and it's like different for each of the generations. And how it was like, it's really hard to see, but if you think about it again, you're like, oh yeah, that was definitely toxic masculinity. This is shorter compared to Jesse's, but
that was great. Thanks, Elias. Short but powerful. We'll go to Allison and Simon's group next.
So me and Allison decided that I was the reporter of the group. Our question summed up is how do you think society's views of gender have changed since the 50s until now? And a follow-up question, how do you think your views would have changed if you're imagining you're from the 50s, or how have your views of gender changed like as you've been growing up, like from childhood to now? We heard a lot of different things that were really cool to listen to. Like the masculinity's views can be different between cultures. There's a lot of pressure for masculine people. Like one person said that as a kid, they saw a lot of masculine figures being the protagonist and saving the day on TV all the time. And as they grew up, that kind of changed because they saw more people like come out of their shell and stuff. But one thing that I kept hearing is that there have been big changes, like whether they're from when they're growing up or from the 50s, there have been big changes on views on masculinity. And I thought that was really interesting that so many people think so much has changed. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thanks. I'll pass it to Isaiah, Johanna, and William's breakout room.
Hi, so I will be doing the summary for our group. So the main question that we asked was, what is the first word that comes to mind when you think of the word boy? Some people's answers were sports, artistic, and man. And it was a lot, but it was really fun because we got to like see different answers, which made it even more interesting. I found a couple of things interesting while we were talking. I like how the older folks got to talk about like how they saw masculinity in their personal life, and like how even they can notice like the major change that society has had on like men nowadays, because like it is more accepting as to like how men can express themselves in society, which is like really interesting, because like back then it wasn't always like that. Like let's say like crying was sometimes unacceptable or disgusting at some points, but now society is more emotionally accepting of that.
Thanks, William. I feel like so many interesting questions have been raised, and I wish we could dive into all of them, but hopefully you'll see reflections of this in the final piece. So actually, audience, you've been helping us a great deal in terms of the next steps in our process. And I think these young folks are very used to being asked all the questions. So thank you for letting them do the asking. It's fun to be on the other side of the table for once. So we're going to kind of start closing out our last 15 minutes or so together. We're going to watch a 3-minute documentary about the process made by Tommy Butler. And as we watch, feel free to put questions in the chat. You are, welcome to ask me, any of the creative team members, any of the teenagers, any questions you want. We'll play the video and then we'll come back together for a brief talk back.
Right, yeah, there's no audio quite yet. Oh, perfect.
What it means to be a man in the year 2020. So we have a group of male identified and non-binary teenagers all talking about masculinity and how they imagine their future in relationship to it.
Hold on, everybody, we're starting it over.
I'm Nell Bang-Jensen. I'm the director and creator of Boy Project. Boy Project is an original piece of theater about what it means to be a man in the year 2020. So we have a group of male-identified and non-binary teenagers all talking about masculinity and how they imagine their future in relationship to it. The idea of being a man, or the category of men, is often examined, sometimes villainized. And I was thinking about boys who were going to grow up and begin to identify as part of that category of men, and wondering how they were feeling about it and how they saw themselves in relationship to it.
I wanted to try something new. I didn't want to be just boring and done nothing. I want to try something new.
And I liked the idea behind the project, and I thought it would be fun to do. We all just created this safe place where we can all say whatever we want and just and be friends at the end of the day, because that's what this program is all about. Just interact with each other and make a safe place for us to enjoy ourselves and come every single day after school to just be ourselves.
These teenagers have been so vulnerable, and I see them finding their power in sharing.
Rain falls outside of the windows of the plain house. Light from inside delicately paints the contours of raindrops on the other side of the glass, a golden hue streaking the window with echoes of the day's forgotten love. The boy and the man sit on the mattress, alone.
You take a mixture of what the parent wants and what the kid wants. Because if you want to keep your job, you will definitely let the kid stay up till 9. The parents said 8. If the kid wants to stay till 10. Come. Shut up about your chips. Who are you, first of all? Why are you in my room? Get out. All right, listen.
Oh, I know you can make the noises. You make the noises. You're the time machine.
Ding dong. Ring the sheep.
Okay, lies on 3. 1, 2, 3, lies! Thanks all for watching. I'm going to hand it over to Eva Steinmetz, another member of the creative team, who is going to moderate a conversation, and feel free to put questions in the chat. Eva looks like she needs 1 minute. So in the meantime, I'm gonna, oh, you're good. Okay, Eva, to you.
Oh, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Well, I am actually gonna throw it back to you now. But before I do that, if folks have questions about the process, questions about the people, questions about a moment that they saw, questions about something else, put them in the chat. If they're for a specific person, it can be like, hey, Brad, I want to know about stuff. So start throwing questions in the chat. And to buy some time while you think about your questions, I'm going to ask Nell our first question, which is, what is the future of Boy Project? What's next for the piece? What's next for the team?
Yeah, like most of American theater, the future is a bit of a mystery right now. I'll say, you know, we really made a commitment that this piece felt important to do in person. when we can, and we'd want to prioritize doing it in person, even if that means delaying it for a little while. What it means is there's almost a little bit of a time capsule element at this point of, you know, when we do this show in person, it may be a year or two from now. And so these teenagers will be looking back at their past selves and how they thought about gender then compared to a year or two later, which has already been happening since we started on this work at 2018. Some of them were 12 years old, they're now 14. It's a big difference in terms of their lives. So the real answer is we don't know, but we want to do it in person when we can. Because it's a longer process, we now have to figure out all the producing elements once again. As every theater artist is, we're raising money for the project. We hope to keep you in the loop about it so that we can keep a good thing going on. I'm actually going to shamelessly put my email address in the chat if anyone wants to talk more about producing opportunities in the future, or how to get involved along the way. And I'll hand it back to you, Eva.
Thank you. Yeah, keep throwing questions in the chat. I love it. This is great. We have a question from Georgina, which is, did any of the teens change their own views about what they thought masculine meant? I'm gonna throw this one to you, Damon. Did you, or did anybody else on the team, no need to spill any secrets, change your or their views about what masculine meant?
I would have to go with yes on that, because I really thought that masculine was one-sided, but like if it was like on a spectrum, it couldn't fit anywhere else. And I was so wrong about that, because you can really do whatever you want and it shouldn't matter. And I always worried about it mattering, and that's what was holding me back from like having more friends and everything, because I worried too much about being masculine enough. And after this, it changed my whole view and it made me a better person.
Awesome. Thanks, Damon. All right. This next one's for you, Simon. The question is, what happened in the process that truly surprised you? Were there any surprises, unexpected moments, encounters, relationships, discoveries?
Something that surprised me is the amount of different views that came in to this process, like from different people, from different backgrounds, but somehow all connecting and all having the same means to an end. And just the fact that every person, no matter what their views were, like accepted one another for them and for their views. And it felt really special, because it felt like as soon as this process started, we became friends, we became like a family. And we've been doing this for over a year now. Some of us have joined us throughout the way, but like overall, this project has been going on for over a year. And it was just surprising and special how like meaningful that this project got for at least me. I'm sure that a lot of people will find it meaningful. But yeah, that's my answer.
Thanks, Simon. I know Nell already spoke to this a little bit, but I'm gonna take part of Valerie's question and throw it to Brad, which is, when we pick this piece up again, because we will, what would you do first? What would you want to work on first?
I think one of the remarkable things about a process like this is it is not very goal driven. And what I mean by that is it's not like, okay, today we're going to come in and we're going to make 4 scenes, and those scenes are going to be this, this, and this. What I have learned from Nell, which I feel like is one of those larger life lessons, is if you just take care of the process. And what I mean by that is take care of the people in the room. make sure they have a ride home, make sure they understand when rehearsal is, make sure that there are snacks, make sure there's plenty of breaks. If you just take care of those things around the process, so it's a very gentle, forgiving process, the art kind of comes naturally and quite easily. And so I think my goal would be just to create that space again, which that space, that process is an enormous amount of work and resources. For example, during the caregivers, we hired someone to take care of one of the caregivers' husbands while she was in the rehearsal room with us. And with these folks, we worked really hard to communicate with them and make sure they knew where they were going and if they had a ride home. And so it's really about just creating that space again, which is hard to do and hard to pick up. And then I wouldn't worry about the art because I know that it would come from that sort of nurturing, gentle space. I wouldn't have to push towards a goal. I know that the show would come out of that space.
Thanks, Brad. We talked about this a little bit early on when we were introducing ourselves and talked about our favorite moment, but there was a question for the most rewarding moment. And Jaden, I'm curious to know if there is a difference between favorite and most rewarding. Maybe there was something that was really rewarding that was also kind of difficult, or maybe the favorite and most rewarding are one and the same. What do you think?
Okay, so when I think about like rewarding, I think about like an accomplishment or an achievement we made together. I know like friendship was a big one, but if we're looking at like purely the rehearsal process, I think during the fall workshop, or the winter workshop, we were at that place down in, I don't even know where. There was the couch, there was the kitchen, and there was like the dance studio.
Performance garage.
Yes. And one day we just sat down and we were like, we're gonna write a song. And I forget the name of the person who was there with us, but together we wrote like a song about like going through Philly, and we used Philly things to make a rap basically. And then afterwards we like performed it and like went in a circle and like chanted it, and it was really cool. And as I saw what we could all accomplish as a team, even though we're not all actors, and we not a lot of us have stage experience, it still shows that we can accomplish a lot in the acting scheme. It was really cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaden. Yeah, keep throwing questions if you've got them. Maybe we'll take 1 to 3 more. This next question. Given you all talk a lot about what it means to be a boy in 2020, what advice would you give to those that might have been boys a longer time ago based on your experience? So I'm imagining that this is, what's your advice to men and people who identify as men, the people who were boys long ago? I'm gonna throw this one to you, Jesse. Got any advice for men in 2020?
Thank you, Eva. It's me, Jesse Simonette, the man, the legend. I think an advice I would give to, like I'm currently a boy, and an advice I would give to people who have been boys and are no longer boys is that probably like, and I feel like this is something that a lot of boys are now being taught to do in 2020, and it's becoming more of a norm than it was like 20, 30 years ago. But just like to be more open with your friends and to be more like, you know, loving and caring and like really show your support to them in a vulnerable and intimate and platonic way. That I don't think that I feel like a lot of the people in this room currently won't have much trouble with it, but that's my advice to men overall.
That feels like the perfect note to end on, Jesse Simonette, the man, the legend. You're going to take us out on that. Thank you all so much for being here. It's really been a joy for us to revisit this process and to have you all now involved in it. So again, my email's in the chat. I'll put it in again if you want to be kept in the loop about future iterations of Boy Project as we fully realize a plan to do this show safely eventually. Thank you so much for being here. Onwards and upwards. We have another one of these on Saturday if you know folks who could benefit from being here. Thanks for coming and have a great night.
Thank you, Boy Project. Thank you.
Love you, Maya.
Thanks for being here.
Love
You
ya.
yeah or no? No. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, if you want to call